and that pulls us back into a more dynamic and productive relationship with the world.
It's my understanding that each poet laureate has their own choice of projects that you focus on. I know many of us are familiar with former U.S. Poet Laureate Robert Pinsky, who developed the favorite poem project, which is still ongoing. Would you talk a bit about your focus and your visits to Kentucky and South Carolina and New Mexico?
Yeah, well, I was trying to think about what I could offer and what poetry can offer during, this moment. And over again, I've been really wishing, or before, I got the call from the library, I'd been saying, God, if there were only a way that somehow we could have conversations all over the country, bringing people together who, demographics and crowdsourcing algorithms say or should be divided from one another. And if those groups of people could talk about poems, I bet we could get somewhere. Because we'll be quiet, we'll be curious, we'll find that there's a sense of common ground that we have, and we could develop questions together. That was my wish throughout the whole, election cycle, where divided nation was being like kind of tossed in the air constantly. And then I got this call, and I said, oh, maybe there's a vehicle for doing this now. So I've been going into small rural communities in different parts of the country, and just talking about poems with people, reading some of my own poems, but also reading poems by other poets and saying, what do you notice? What do these poems speak to? What questions do they raise? How do they activate your sense of, what's at stake for you in your own life? And it's been beautiful. It's been really heartening to see that, yes, poetry is something that allows strangers to come together and skip over anxiety and skip past small talk and get to, oh, you're talking in this poem about your father whom you lost. And as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking about my own father who I lost. And it's been this beautiful, consoling project during a time when there's still so much that's telling us we can't talk to each other. I thought that going from, where I've usually spend my time, which is university towns and cities, to rural communities, would be a way of crossing from one world, in quotation marks, to another. So that's how that, geographical sense of America took hold of the project.
Is there one moment from your travels as U.S. Poet Laureate that stands out for you as you visited these small communities?
There are a lot, and some of the trips that have been not organized by the Library of Congress, but that have just come up as invitations because people know that I'm open to going into small communities, have involved going into people's homes and spending time just talking, being, which I felt really lucky to be able to do. I had a really powerful experience in Kentucky, visiting a men's rehab facility and sharing poems with about 100 men who were not voluntarily in this facility, a residential facility, and being so delighted by the new insights that they brought to my experience of poems by myself and others, because they were listening to them thinking, this applies to my experience with substance, this applies to what happened in my family, even if the poems were not deliberately about addiction. And so, they expanded my sense of what poems are capable, how broad their reach is capable of being.
Where are you headed next?
Going to Alaska in August, the end of August.